Join us as we unravel the complex relationship between government and music and explore the impact of policy on the enigmatic sounds that shape our culture. Tonight on Newsworthy, two words and two question marks.
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Buying your first home can be overwhelming, but here are 5 tips to make the process go smoother. Number one, find a lender, me, Ed Locke, that can answer any questions you might have and help you get pre approved. There are multiple options available based on your situation. Number two, work with a real estate agent you can trust. Number three, don't rush the process. Take your time and know that the process could take some time. Number four, consider all the costs. Number five, get a home inspection and review it with your realtor. Keep these tips in mind, budget for yourself, and you'll be that much closer to making your dream of homeownership a reality. So reach out to me at 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
He's alive! Have you checked the children? Get out!
You have scoured the podcast world and finally found us, Newsworthy with Steve and Jerry, where we delve into all things mysterious, macabre, or out of this world, and decide if they are truly newsworthy. Two words and two question marks.
Gentlemen, I'm so excited tonight.
Me too.
I'm excited and thankful for several things. Excited because we have an awesome freaking guest I can't wait to get to. Excited, thankful because we didn't allow Jerry with his Coke Zero to destroy the entire studio.
Unfortunately, our cameras are set up a different way to where you can't see
What
disaster.
Tonight, on tonight's show, we have Jake Hambone Davis with us. I have known this young man since he was knee high. What's that saying? Knee high to a grasshopper?
Yep.
And I can't, for the life of me, tell the world how proud and how encouraged and how excited I am for him. He has shown devotion and dedication to his craft to the point his fingers would literally bleed. And you can't find that kind of dedication in most adults or most people of any age group, and to find it in such a young man who by far is one. If you are in southeastern or southern Ohio and you don't have this young man on your register at your bar, at your concert, at your event scheduled to come, you need to make that happen. He is amazing. And believe it or not, he's very niche because he does a lot of blues, and I love the blues. A lot of people said the blues are dying. I think he's a good example of why they are thriving. So, Jake Davis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. That's a lot. It means a lot, especially to hear people that appreciate the blues, because people do say it's dying, but you're exactly right. That's why I'm out here doing what I do, is to try to keep it alive.
Well, I think you do an amazing job at it, man. And
Thank you.
if I'm a betting man, I would put my money on you making it big sooner rather than later. I just appreciate what you've done, all your videos, the way you sing, and if you can, if you're in the audience and you see Jake and you hear Jake and you're thinking the blues, I would encourage you to go to Twitch, because what you can see and hear about Jake singing the blues does not look like it should come out of you. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, I appreciate it. There's a reason, you know, I got second place this year in Cincinnati's Blues Challenge, which is like a regional competition of all the best blues artists from the area. They get together and we all compete against each other to try to go to Memphis, and the first place winner gets to go to Memphis. And which I got to do that once before with my mentor TD Young's son Trayvon King, who is a fantastic guitar player. And if you ever get the chance, check both those people out. TD Young, Kentucky Music Hall of Fame legend of the blues, one of the best guitar players in the state of Kentucky and in the world, in my opinion, and good friend of mine, and his son Trayvon, who's also a great friend of mine. And yeah, sorry, I don't mean to digress, but I gotta shout out my roots, man.
Yeah, that was going to be my very next question. How does a young man from Central Kentucky get so involved that you spend your life playing, doing, singing, creating in the genre of the blues?
Well, Hubert Sumlin, who was Howlin' Wolf's guitar player, once said, not everybody can just play the blues. People can say they can play the blues, but not everybody can play the blues, because in order to really be able to play the blues, you've had to have lived the blues. And, you know, I come from a background that wasn't easy, and it was just a music that I always related to. And once I found it, you know, it was like a hand in a glove. It was meant to be. And that's, you know, I studied it. Every hour I could spend was studying documentaries, music, films, everything I could study about the blues. I was studying it. I love it.
Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, you're on tonight, and first of all, we're so thankful you're here. But I got some exciting news to tell you guys. Like really exciting news. Like if you go into my kitchen, you see all my plants. I talk to them all the time. Well, today I told my plants a joke about photosynthesis.
Yeah,
I sure did. They're still processing. No, nothing. It's customary for the guests to laugh at the dad jokes, Jake.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It just
Customary for the host to not tell a joke bad enough. He has to beg for someone to like it.
Oh man. Well, it snowed this week here in Kentucky.
I sure did.
I took my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old. We went outside and we built snowmen.
Nice.
Did you know the difference between snowmen and snowwomen?
What's that?
Snowballs.
Surely not.
Yeah.
You didn't explain that to your
I did
babies,
not.
did you? Okay.
Both of whom are daughters? No, we did not.
That's bad.
Did I tell you guys about the mood ring that I recently bought my wife?
Oh, you did.
It turns black when she's annoyed. I'm not really sure if it turns any other color.
I'm pretty sure if you
Oh,
bought
man.
us a mood ring, it would be the same way.
You think so?
I wouldn't say that. Don't let him tell you that.
Jerry's here not for his opinion, but for his stunning good looks.
That is
Yeah, we
right.
did figure that out.
Oh,
I almost used that joke. by the
Right
way.
after we figured out that I had a
It would be
face.
it would be so
Radio.
true for you.
what do you call an attractive fruit, fellas?
What?
So, what do you call an attractive fruit, fellas?
Oh.
What is that?
A fine apple.
Oh, yeah.
A fine apple.
Following
Yeah,
in his
fine
dad's
apple.
footsteps. He usually wins the joke of the night.
Yeah. So if you haven't put two and two together, Jake is Clay Davis's son, one of our regulars on the show, and we love having Clay on the show as well. I love,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you why, Jake. Your dad always brings it. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter. We can be talking about underwater basket
he's
weaving,
something else, ain't he?
and he knows the ins, the outs, the beginnings, the middlings, and the way to make underwater basket weaving just sound amazing. So,
Well,
love
and
having
you
your
know,
dad on.
I think that's part of another reason of why I am the way I am about music. And my dad, I would say, is probably my number one influence. You know, he's the reason. And my mom, too. Like, they both influenced me musically, but my dad was really the one that, like, helped cultivate it, helped nurture it. You know, he made sure I had instruments and
That's
music to listen to, and he's knowledgeable about a lot of things, but he's also an encyclopedia of music. That man knows every type of music there is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how the government and governments around the world interfere, engage with, control, steer, whatever words you want to use, the music and industry, and to some degree, not to a big degree, Hollywood as well. But I think the biggest, like, back in Jerry's day, the big thing way back when was like Elvis, and they wouldn't allow people to show his bottom half because he was moving it too much, and it might incite girls to do whatever girls do.
What do girls do?
Well, I wouldn't know.
So I wasn't alive during that time, but I did watch the Elvis movie with Austin Butler, and apparently they just throw all of their clothes at him.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently that's what happened.
Which, that's great back then. Now you do it, you'd probably be buried pretty quick. So my first idea, Jake, and I don't know if you even know this or are part of this. You're a lot younger than the rest of us, but my biggest experience with the government interfering with music actually benefited the artist, not because of what they were trying to do, but in spite of it. And what I'm referring to was this little group down in Miami, Broward County, Florida, called the Two Live Crew. Anybody ever heard of them?
I had before you talked about it.
So the Two Live Crew was a very risque, vulgar, some people would say, rap group that talks about sex and innuendo, and they're not something you want your teenage or your younger kids listening to. But the city council in Broward County decided that they were going to ban Two Live Crew's music, which is against the Constitution, first of all.
Yeah.
And not only did they say that you can't do that here, well, Two Live Crew actually even were ahead of their times. If you see parental guidance warnings on music labels now, I mean, you can't even really go to a music store anymore. But that label...
Yeah, you can, and you should.
Yeah.
If you're listening, support your local music store. They
Absolutely.
Need you.
But if you see that label, it comes from this lawsuit. Basically, Broward County says you're not allowed to produce this kind of music in Miami. And they had actually produced a clean version, and I'm using air quotes, of their music versus an adult version of their music. They had sold out not arena, but like a nightclub with adult people paying to listen to their music. They had to be carded to get in. It's a nightclub, so you have to be 21 to get in because you have to drink. And they literally sent the police in and had these young men arrested off the stage during their concert in front of adults. That was my first exposure to the government interfering with music. And in this particular case, little young man from Kentucky would have never heard of Two Live Crew had it not blew up in the national scenes.
Yeah.
and made these young men who got arrested multimillionaires.
Kind of backfired.
And famous.
It absolutely backfired. It
They
made them
couldn't.
famous.
There's no way that they could have continued doing what they did for the next 20 years, taken every penny they made and sunk it into PR. Couldn't have bought 1/10 of the publicity of this generation.
I would have never heard them. I would have never bought their album. I would have never saw, and this is a God's honest truth, I had to find an adult to buy the explicit version so I could have it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So this is one of those things where it's kind of like the seatbelt for me, which is might be controversial for you guys, but I think it's weird that the government can tell you how to best protect yourself. You know what I mean? Like with the seatbelt, it's like, and I get that if you're with a bunch of people, you could become a projectile, and that's very dangerous. But like if you're by yourself, the only person that you're going to hurt is you, and the government is basically saying you can't make the best decision for yourself, so we have to make it for you.
Well, that's an.
And I wear my seatbelt, so I mean I'm not saying, but like
my body, my choice.
Well, I agree with the fact that we should wear a seatbelt. I don't agree that
it should be mandated.
They
you
have
just don't like mandates, really, do you?
Well, it's like this. Like you have a bunch of 18+ people who are saying that, hey, I'm okay with going to this concert. And the government is saying, no, you can't make that decision for yourself. We're going to make it for you. And just
you want to know how stupid seatbelts are in Kentucky? And Jerry's going to love this argument. It's illegal to drive your four-wheel drive vehicle with all the protections and the airbags and everything in Kentucky without your seatbelt. However, I can get on my two-wheel vehicle on my motorcycle and ride anywhere I want to without a helmet. It's all about how much money the lobbyists want to spend to make something a law.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that.
Yeah.
And here's what I mean. For many years, you were required to wear a helmet on motorcycles. They changed it. While I was gone and lived in Virginia, I come back and it's no longer the law. There wasn't a bunch of people who wanted to be able to ride without motorcycles that hired lobbyists. So it's not a matter of who hired lobbyists to get this law changed.
No, that was a matter of freedom.
Yes. That was America and
That was
freedom.
America.
Damn
And
right.
The insurance companies are the ones that paid the lobbyists that dictate, because of their bottom line, that humans should have to wear seatbelts.
In the first place.
In the
But
first
they
place.
certainly weren't the ones that repealed it.
Well, and here's the difference. Because motorcycle insurance does not cover bodily injury. It only covers the injury on the... If you're to ride a motorcycle without a helmet, one of the requirements is that you have additional health insurance. Because you're not covered, even on full coverage, that only covers the motorcycle. It does not cover the person.
And that's regardless of helmet or no helmet.
Correct.
That's just motorcycle insurance.
And that's why the difference is there. In a car insurance is required to cover you. That's why it's a law that you have to wear a seatbelt. Anywho, that's not why we're here.
Yeah, sorry to derail us.
That's what you do, Brett. It's what you do. Jake, tell us a little bit about, and I don't know what you were planning on talking about tonight, but I'm sure you understand and know. Tell us a little bit about what happened to Bob Marley.
Well, that's interesting because it ties a lot into what I was going to talk about. And in my opinion, a lot of where this all started was under the J. Edgar Hoover administration. And basically, what happened was he created a quote-unquote hit list. But it was under the counterintelligence program was the name of it. And basically their entire job was to disrupt and discredit groups that were influential or like considered threats or
Enemies.
yeah, basically, or even at that time, the civil rights leaders, basically all of them were on the list. But it extends even into, like people like Bob Marley and John Lennon and just huge, high, influential people. But the funny thing about J. Edgar Hoover, which I was telling Jerry this earlier, like I feel like before it even comes down to the government, at the end of the day, I think the real people behind a lot of everything, and we don't really ever give, and I don't know why people don't ever talk about them, but I feel like it's the mafia, because J. Edgar Hoover was pretty much in cahoots with them at the time too. And if you look at like there's other instances in history where it seems like there were people in government that were kind of like mooching off the mob people. I think FDR, yeah, it was FDR. He rode in Al Capone's bulletproof vehicle, right after Pearl Harbor happened. They used Al Capone's vehicle because at that time we didn't have bulletproof vehicles, and so it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people. Rick James is a good example. He talked open.
I can't hear that name without doing
Before you like think of that, like the man talked openly about how his mother helped him get famous because of her ties. He grew up pretty much surrounded. He was in a mafia family, pretty much. His mom worked for the mob, and they helped launch his career.
Well, our government has been long known to work with the mob, especially members like Lucky Luciano, who was instrumental in bringing drugs into the country before it was actually called the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, but I think it's all connected. But going back to the Hoover stuff, like I think that is really the beginning of the real like targeting of people, though. But then it's leached out in other like administrations. Like you all were talking about the censorship period, which is equally bad in my opinion. Like when they were trying to censor people from making the music they wanted to make. So it seems like they've always tried to silence people.
Well, I know one of the guys that probably hundreds of thousands of people currently watch and enjoy. I bet most people don't realize he had put out a record that was never allowed to leave Warner Brothers because it was so bad. If you've ever watched Law and Order SVU and seen Ice-T on there, he had an album that was not even allowed to be released.
Yeah.
You know, part of the reason, a huge part of what we're talking about is very, very negative. Part of it is positive. And here's what I mean by that. I agree with what Jake said. Edgar Hoover probably was the first one who began targeting individuals. He was by no means the first one, and in fact, American government wasn't the first one to use music in relation to political whatever. That has went on throughout history, thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All that goes to say it's well recognized how strong and how powerful that music really is. It wouldn't be used so widely if it were not.
I can personally speak to that. A mood can be made or changed by the tone and the tenor of the music that comes on the radio or it comes on your playlist. If I were to die right now, fall over dead, and someone played my playlist, they'd be like, "What was wrong with this young man?" I say young because it makes me feel good. There's Taylor Swift. There's freaking Marilyn Manson. There's the blues. There's every genre of music on there, and it all depends on the kind of mood I'm in for the moment. There's Christian rock, there's you name it, it's
I'm
on
with
there.
you though. Yeah, sometimes you're in the certain mood for certain music, and then sometimes because I listen to.
But it's all frequency related, and that's what I was also talking about earlier. It's like people don't understand that the music we listen to, it also music physically changes our being. And the frequencies we hear, and people don't understand, I guess, at times, like certain frequencies can be healing, but they can also be disruptive, I guess, or destructive, I guess, frequencies. Like there's some music that just even I will listen to, and it's just so negative, and it makes you feel negative. Like,
but Jake, would you not agree that even the destructive and the negative music is the exact reason that our founders wrote the First Amendment? It's not to protect the stuff we like. Everybody likes Conway Twitty.
Well, I'm not saying
it's to protect the stuff that.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't listen to it, but I'm just saying, I mean, that is a truth.
The argument of censorship is still going on today.
Yeah. Well, you talked about frequency. Let me go back to that for just a second. A guest we had a couple of weeks ago, Lindsay Stanton, was talking about frequency, and not only was it healing, but if you get to a high enough frequency, you can actually commune with lost loved ones because of frequency, based on the same premise that everything and everyone is based on an energy level.
Frequencies are interesting, but especially in music. But that's probably a topic for a whole different discussion, because it's like completely off topic.
So. Yeah, no, I like it though. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure you've watched an episode or two, but we kind of
bounce around
to stay on topic sometimes.
Well, that's okay.
As you've already seen.
That's okay.
27
it's Brett's fault. Jerry and I always were on topic until Brett got here.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all
right.
What
topic would that be?
Huh?
And what topic would that be?
Oh, I don't know. But exactly. I just pick one.
Don't believe him, Brett.
Oh, I don't. I'm here before the episode, and we always start late.
So, what do you think, Jake? If you had to point to someone or some group today that was under duress or under some sort of censorship, and President Trump's about to come in, and you have a 5-minute meeting with President Trump about that, who is it, and why should they not be under that duress?
Oh, well, I mean, shoot, I don't know. My thing wasn't more on censorship, I guess, because I can't think of anybody who's being censored right now, because
you can look at like a guy like Tom
in music at least. I mean, they literally, actually, it's hilarious, because I was reading the news this morning, and on Jimmy Kimmel, I guess, he had this band called Knocked Loose, and they're like a death metal band, and people the next night or today were demanding he apologize for having them because it scared them. And it's just like, it's like, this stuff we're talking about. It's like people want to censor it, but it's art. It's art. It's just an art form.
It may not be our style of art, but it absolutely is art. And that's one, you're talking about all the different genres. I've never heard you listen to death metal, hard rock. Maybe you do. I just not heard it.
I like listening to it at the gym because it gets me amped up.
I like several.
I like some. My son Peyton, and if anybody knows Peyton, he's big into it. And I just learned that that is an actual, how they even sing comes from down here, not from up here. And it's like, wait, what? Because it sounds guttural. And
people want to sit and say, screaming isn't singing and anybody can get paid to scream, but this is an art form. Me and my boss,
really is.
my boss loves it, and like he's kind of got me to enjoy it because I realize like these guys go on tour doing this every night, and I'm like, how can they sit and do that every night to their voice and still be able to sing? Because some of them can sing like they'll variate from singing clean to doing that, and it's like, how do you even sing so smooth after doing that to your voice?
Yeah, it's amazing. I've really appreciated it a lot more since I've seen a lot of these bands live. So I like going to music festivals and things like that. So I don't just get to see the bands I want to see. I see a bunch of bands that I've never heard of before, and so I've gotten exposed to some of those bands there. And it's just like you said, they can go from screaming to like the most beautiful sound. Like Disturbed comes to mind. Obviously, Disturbed's not super heavy metal, but like if you
Used to
listen
be.
Sound of Silence, it's like he's got the voice of an angel.
Yeah.
He's up there, like,
I think it's really neat when it comes to music how something. So, like when I was growing up and I was probably in my teens, Skid Row and Motley Crue was hardcore, right?
Yeah.
And now they're like,
Yes.
yeah, they're like country bumpkins now. It's like some crazy stuff.
You come up during the Metallica era.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you like them?
Yeah.
I love Metallica. I've seen
So do
them
I.
live. They were.
I love Metallica.
There's not a group. There's a lot of groups that. Okay, so there was a fine line for me personally. So, I want to ask this question. I'm gonna put it on your head, Jake. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there, and we'll come back to it. I want to get your three most influential groups in the music genre before we're done. Ever.
Okay. Ever.
Okay.
So just so everybody knows, we'll come back to that. Be thinking about it, because I bet that at most we're going to have one, maybe two that that everybody agrees on.
Probably.
But back in that day, Skid Row, Motley Crue, Metallica was crazy hard. Like I used to live with my great aunt when I was about 12 or 13. And everybody on my bus listened to Metallica and Motley Crue, and I wasn't allowed to listen to that. My great aunt was having no part of that. The very first cassette tape that I was allowed to buy was a rap CD or cassette tape because they were on the music awards and she thought that was kind of funny, so I could have it. And it was, I'll never forget it. It was DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble. That was my very first music cassette that I ever bought.
Awesome.
But then, here's the funny thing. The pastor of my church at the time, his son was a hellion. And I'm sure David doesn't listen to the show, and if he does, if he does, whatever. But he invited me one time. He was way older than me. He was like 19, and I was like 13, 12. He's like, "You want to go to this concert with me?" And I'm like, "If I'm allowed." So he comes to my house. The pastor son of my church. We all know what pastor kids are like, Jerry. So he comes over to my house and he asked my aunt. He said, Miss Mildred, I'll have him home at a certain time. I'd really like him to go. I already bought the ticket. There's no cost. Well, she said I could go. My very first concert was Faster Pussycat and Motley Crue, whom I had no idea about any of their music whatsoever.
Listen to Motley Crue.
I wasn't allowed to.
Okay.
And I've seen them also this year.
Yeah, not good.
They're
not good now, but their concerts are pretty wild.
Jake, what was your first concert? I'm sure your mom or dad took you, but what was your first concert?
My first concert was a band called Goose Creek Symphony, which is one of my most influential bands for sure. But I got to go with my dad. He raised me on their music, and so that was pretty cool. But it was kind of like me and him, like, we call it first concert, but like technically first big concert was like Motley Crue, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and Alice Cooper
Oh, Alice
Oh
Cooper is
really?
awesome.
See,
together.
Another nice one.
Josh and I went. He called me up one day. My middle son. He calls me up and he says, "Hey Dad, you want to go to a concert?" And I'm like, "Who?" And he said, "Motley Crue and Alice Cooper." And I was like, "Sure, why not?" My first concert might as well be my last because I'm not a huge concert person. I like the music on the CDs; it's so much clearer and crisper.
I mean, I disagree with you
Or-
completely.
Oh
I like
man.
a small environment where it's very intimate.
Yeah.
I don't like the big, whatever. But so we went, and Alice Cooper, he's like 98 years old, and he's
Still got
flipping
it.
amazing.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
Flipping
One of the
amazing.
best shows
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Yeah.
he's awesome.
And then Motley Crue came out, and I was ready to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. That's cool. What was your first concert, Jerry?
I believe it was Joan Jett and the Blackhearts.
Oh, I
opening
love
up
Joan
for
Jett. Nice.
Kansas
Oh,
in
wow, I love
1983.
Kansas.
That
How was Kansas not the opening act? Joan Jett
Yeah.
rocks.
Yeah.
oh well, yeah, a classic legend.
Yeah.
AC/DC, for those about to rock, was one of my first 3 or 4.
Oh,
Had
man.
by far the biggest impression on me.
What's
Of
the
any
worst
of them.
concert you've ever been to, Jake?
The worst?
Yeah,
And the
just
best.
like, ugh.
And give us your best.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
worst and best.
It's hard to say because I haven't really, in my opinion, I don't think I've ever seen a bad show. But
Oh wow.
there was one. Well, the worst show I saw was, in my opinion, Brooks and Dunn.
Fair enough.
I saw them.
Travis Tritt opened up for them. And this guy, kind of like Alice Cooper, Travis Tritt is like, got to be like 70 something years old now. And he was doing somersaults and like
He put on the show.
splits and like he was flipping. And I was like, what in the world? And then Brooks and Dunn come out and they were just doing all their slow stuff, man. And by the midpoint of their set, me and Ashley looked at each other and we are just like, you ready to leave? Because I'm kind of bored. And we
Yeah, I'd
did.
say
We
that's a pretty
left.
bad one.
We left.
Man,
So,
in the
best
middle.
one.
What was your best one?
Best one was probably.
Your
That's-
last show, right? No, I'm just kidding.
No, best one was probably my 16th birthday. My dad, he really likes this band called the Drive-By Truckers, and he got 2 tickets to see them. And on the headliner, there was an opening band called the North Mississippi All Stars, and we were just like, "Who are these guys?" Like, we didn't know. And we thought we were going to be late. We were stuck in traffic. We were kind of freaking out. We didn't know where we were going to sit. And then we get there. We figure out, like, we weren't late. And it was general admission. And we could sit wherever we wanted. So we grabbed front row.
Oh wow.
And, yeah, just went right to the front. And this band, the North Mississippi All Stars, blew us away. They came out from the back of the, like, it was at the Iroquois Amphitheater in Louisville, so it was outside. And they came from, like, outside playing, like, drums like a marching band, went through every aisle, going up and down, just walking by everybody. And they walked right past us, get up on the stage, and just laid it down. If you've never heard them, they're badass band, man. North
Cool.
Mississippi All Stars. But like that blew us both away. Like we left that show very, very surprised by them, and just it was great. Great
Awesome. Jerry,
experience.
what about you?
Best show
Yeah.
ever. I didn't enjoy it the most, but the guy that I thought put on the best show ever was the boss, Bruce Springsteen. He did a show in Rupp Arena one time, and came back for encore after encore after encore. And the next morning, it was in the paper in the Herald Leader that he was put in the hospital immediately after with a
Wow.
Dang.
his fever was 103. He was sick as crap the whole time and just
Oh,
kept coming out.
dang.
But you could tell it from everything that man did. He was literally putting everything he had into the concert, which is why I would rate it number one. You have to give it up for someone who
Sure.
I always liked his music a lot.
See, I like,
But it wasn't the
him too.
very top. But that alone, his effort would elevate that to number one for me.
What about your worst?
I've had several along the lines of Brooks and Dunn that he was talking about. Some of the guys, when they get into the really slow stuff, it can just be so boring, so absolutely boring. Even guys you might like sometimes with some of their songs, country music, and I'm a country music fan, but some of it just doesn't lend itself well to a good concert.
Sure.
Hank Williams Jr., the exact friggin' opposite. That man, I saw him in Morehead, Kentucky, and he, I'm sure, was drunk. I've seen several country guys drunk. I saw George Jones.
Oh,
I
Hank's
worked a
always
concert of
drunk.
George Jones in Rupp Arena when he was so drunk, he was fourth or fifth step up on the stage, the stairs that take him up, and started tottering and fell back into Jeff Jones, my roommate. He and I both worked for the security company. And if we hadn't caught him, he'd have been out. There would have been
Oh,
no
my
show.
gosh.
But yeah, several of the country shows that are real slow.
Brett?
Yeah.
Whew. My best is tough. I mean, I was several that I was just blown away by. Metallica is probably my favorite show I've ever seen. Him or Alice Cooper. I think those were the two top. My worst. I think my worst is it wasn't a bad show, but it was a letdown because it was a band I really liked. Falling in Reverse. Like, I love that band, and I was super excited. Like, I was sitting front row, and it was just him. He came out, and he just, like, walked across the stage, sang a few songs. Like, there was no band. It was, like, I don't know. It was really kind of lame. Like, I don't know how to explain it.
That's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
George Strait, a million number one hits over the years, and I saw him with Blake Shelton when Blake was pretty young, and Blake blew him away because Blake come out and was enthusiastic and energetic, and George just got up there and stood in front of the microphone, and I might as well have been listening to a tape. There
Yeah.
was no show, there was no enthusiasm, there was no energy.
That's exactly right. It's exactly how I felt with
In a
that.
concert, it needs to be more than the music.
And see, some bands like Ice Nine Kills, never heard of them before, and I saw them. I was like, "Holy crap! This band's phenomenal!" Like, and then I'm not really into their music, but like when I saw them live, I was just like mind blown. I was like, man, they're so good.
Yep.
And it was just because they had that energy.
Okay, so mine's a bit of a paradox. Okay. So my very best concert was my first concert. Motley Crue, Faster Pussycat. Those guys, because Motley Crue was still young, and they freaking brought it. I'll never forget. And they had choreographed it with Faster Pussycat because Faster Pussycat came out. They did their set. And at the end of it, as the band kind of drifted off, the lead singer came out like halfway into the audience on it was like, the stage, the very pointy tip of the stage. And it was just him and the drummer. The drums came out right behind him. And the drummer was just bang, bang, just, and the whole time for like 20 minutes, this is what he said. And so if you have kids in the car, hit pause for just a second. He said, shit, goddamn, get off your ass and jam for 20 minutes on repeat. And every time it got louder, and I don't know how they did it. I guess the speakers.
That's a Parliament.
I don't know how he didn't bang
song.
holes into his drum.
That's crazy.
It was so loud. But they had your attention focused there.
Yeah.
The whole time they were redoing the whole stage, right? Yeah. And I'll never forget it. Finally, they said it one last time, and we're like, yeah! And then lights shut off of them, and all you heard was, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the song, but it's Kickstart My Heart.
Yeah.
You heard that riff. And that was how the show started.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy, just energy from all the bands all the time.
When I saw them, that's exactly how they started.
Yeah. It was freaking amazing. And then, and that's when Vince Young could actually sing and didn't make up words and wasn't like my size. He was your size and hot and all that good shit. So then my worst concert that I ever been was by far Motley Crue. The second time I saw him, when Vince couldn't even put a sentence together without having somebody come up with an oxygen tank. It was really bad. Yeah. Really bad. The second,
so bad.
And the one that was probably the closest to taking that was Hank Williams Jr. I saw him, and it wasn't because of him. He was drunk. He wasn't that good. He didn't get out of a chair much. But it's the same thing.
Unusual for him.
But it's the same thing that you and Jake said. Travis Tritt opened for him, and Travis Tritt flat ripped it.
Dude, he's badass.
Yeah, he is. And he ripped it, and before Travis Tritt was freaking Charlie Daniels. He only came out and did like 2 or 3 songs.
He puts on a good show.
But he ripped, like when he was done, his freaking violin, the strings were all ripped off of it. I mean, gone. He was that into it. And then Travis Tritt, and it was like, man, this concert's going to be great. And then half drunk Hank Williams Jr. comes out, and I'm like,
and sat down. You said really
dude, it was terrible, and it was at Rupp. The sound was terrible for his concert. His production team sucked,
and it's
I remember getting up and leaving halfway through it.
It's funny. My dad would tell you the same for his worst concert would be Hank Williams Jr.
Yeah, he probably went to the same concert I did, knowing your dad.
No, Hank Jr. opened for John Cougar Mellencamp.
Oh.
And Hank was drunk and was sitting on the edge of the stage, and he was just dangling his boots, and he couldn't even sing. He was so plastered.
He was blistered.
He was in Moorhead, but put on a hell of a show up until the point that he just went nuts and took his guitar and beat the crap out of it on a drum set.
To me,
Hank Jr., man.
Guitar.
I don't know about you. That kind of pisses me off.
You pay money for that kind
of big money.
Yeah, big money.
You come out there and it's just like
you bring nothing to the table.
That's terrible.
And not even to mention that this is the son of Hank Williams. You know, like
right?
It's like, come on, man.
And I really like Hank Williams Jr.'s albums. Like the song Born to Boogie is one of my favorite. It's just it's kind of like, fuck you, I got this, you know. But you know, I just love that song. It's kind of his ode and his way of sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
I'm different. His album, I liked every song on it. Kalijah, his greatest hits album.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved every song on it. Kalijah was my least favorite, but I liked it.
Yeah. So anywho, I know we're kind of off topic, but we got a musical guest. So
absolutely. We still have to do the most influential.
We are. But I want Jake, if you could, I know you said you had one big gig left for this year before next year. Where's that at, and how can we get tickets? What do we need to do to come see?
So, well, it doesn't cost you anything. It's actually at a speakeasy style joint. I play it very often. It's called Tommy's Place. It's in Westchester, Ohio, at the Premier Gun Range. It's actually attached to the gun range, but it's a separate part of the building. You can't drink and go shoot guns, unfortunately.
I was just sitting there thinking, what a great concept.
You cannot do that. Once you have a drink, you have to you're pretty much wavered from going in there. But either way, that all aside, I believe it's gonna be December 28th. Yeah, it's gonna be December 28th, I believe. I haven't got it in my calendar yet because they just sent it over to me. But
if you've got a link somewhere,
I have a Facebook page. Just check out Jake Hambone Davis. Nice. I post all my events there. I also have a website on that page, which I need to update my events once I get everything booked for this coming year. That's pretty much what this time's all about, is just lining it up. So.
And again, search what on Facebook to find
Jake Hambone Davis.
Jake Hambone Davis, and we'll also leave a link to it on when we up the episode.
Absolutely.
And
So-
that was
Yep.
not far away. Westchester,
28th.
just
Yeah.
north side of Cincinnati.
Yep.
Absolutely, guys. If you're anywhere near Westchester, Ohio, you will not be disappointed by coming to see this young man play. He's amazing. So,
Yeah.
Jake, I have one more question before we get to our influential choices.
Yeah.
How in the world did you get the nickname Hambone?
It's my wife gave it to me, and it actually came from one night we played a gig together because she plays music as well. I play
Fantastic,
music
by the
with
way.
her. We have a band together called Foxfire, and we also play some shows around the Cincinnati area. And one night we were playing a gig, and I just hammed it up, and she was just like, "You're such a ham," and I don't know, somehow from that night she just called me Hambone. Like, she was like, "That should be your blues name,
There you
Hambone."
go.
And
Good
so
So let's go in reverse for our three most influential groups, bands, whatever, no matter what genre. Brent, we'll start with you.
All right, I'm gonna have to go with the Beatles,
All right.
Elvis,
Elvis,
and
okay.
Metallica.
And why Metallica?
I just think that they really started to get heavier. Like, it kind of went from like the classic rock and like, I don't know. I think that they. I don't know how to. I guess I didn't give this much thought.
Well, you don't have to. It's your
Yeah.
list,
Yeah,
so
it's
you
your
get to
list,
do it
dude.
however you want.
All right. So the Beatles, Elvis, and Metallica. Jerry?
My list is almost a duplicate of his.
Really?
Number 1, the Beatles. Number 2, Elvis Presley. Number 3, AC/DC.
Wow. I'll go next because I want to leave our guest the last word. So I don't have any of those.
In other words, you did it wrong. Go ahead.
No, those guys are all close, but my list comes from a different perspective. So my first group is actually a collaboration. It's between Aerosmith and Run DMC. I feel that the song that they did, Walk This Way, opened the eyes of two different generations of people to like other people's music. You had the people that enjoyed rap who had never listened to metal. You had the people who listened to metal that had never heard rap. And this, literally, if you've ever seen the video, broke the wall down between the two. I think that was amazing artwork, and I think they did a great job. And both the groups are pretty freaking awesome. Number 2 influential, I think, and maybe I came from this at a different perspective. I think the album Welcome to the Jungle is probably one of the best all-around albums ever produced. I think that it brought people with hits like Sweet Child of Mine into that genre where they could like Metallica, where they could like AC/DC. It brought them in. It sucked them in, and probably the best. It's by far the best album Guns N' Roses ever did, in my opinion. And
Wasn't Paradise City on there?
Absolutely, it was.
Yeah.
However, your girl, what was her name?
Jennifer Chavez.
Jennifer Chavez was not on there. And my third influential group, and this is a tough one. This is so hard for me. Either falls to Nirvana, who opened the door to an entire new type of music in grunge, or where's my other one? Sorry, thinking, brain fart. Well, we'll just say Nirvana. I think I can't think of my third one, which is really, I'm getting old. All right,
Nickelback.
Huh?
Nickelback.
No,
Nickelback.
man, not Nickelback.
I do love Nickelback.
I do. I mean, I don't dislike them. I think they got a lot of shit for doing what everybody else wants to do is make money. You know, they did a lot of corporate shit to make money. Well, what's wrong with that? But yeah, I definitely think Nirvana was when I was a freshman in high school, Nirvana's album Nevermind came out, and it completely changed how people dressed. It changed how people wore their hair. It changed how people talked. It changed what people listened to. They were going away from the dudes with hairspray and long hair of the hair metal groups to this dark, brooding, So I definitely think that that's probably in there for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Mr. Jake? Finish the show with your big 3 events and or bands,
Well,
influential bands.
oh man. So I guess, and then this can be any bands, any
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
okay. So I guess like number one influential, at least to me and stuff, would be T.D. Young. I think he's the best, period, hands down. And number 2 would be the band I mentioned earlier, Goose Creek Symphony. They've played a huge role in changing my life. They're the reason I wanted to do music. And then third would be probably Stevie Ray Vaughan, because he was also, when I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan for the first time, like on film, I was like probably 8 years old, and like, yeah, I saw that and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. Did you like George Thorogood and the Destroyers?
Man, my buddy, my really good friend Joe Waters, who is also really phenomenal, highly recommend. Please check him out. He just came off tour with him.
What?
Yeah, he
Freaking
was
fantastic.
he was opening for George Thorogood.
That's
It's
awesome.
crazy.
Man. I love George.
Yeah.
Absolutely freaking love Stevie Ray Vaughan too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the one good thing about, I think, that is about music. There is something for everybody and everybody's opinion, and we've showed it tonight. Everybody's opinions are different on what they believe is good, but that doesn't mean any of it's bad.
Yeah.
I remember my listening at the table where my great aunts and my great uncles would yell about what is the world coming to with this rap, and I'm thinking, dude, I like this stuff. What do you mean? There's nothing better than a great bass lick, in my opinion. Be it a automated, musically inclined bass or an actual stand-up bass. I love bass, and that's the best thing about music.
Yeah, it's changed. And I feel like every generation hates the new music. My uncle always tells a story. He was big into Kiss.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, I never liked
He loves Kiss, and
I love Kiss.
I like Kiss a lot. But
of course you would.
Well,
good people with musical taste like me and Jake don't like Kiss.
He always tells a story how he didn't eat lunch for like 2 months straight and saved up money to buy a Kiss album, and his grandma wouldn't let him do it. So he had to get this other kid to buy it, and he had to hide it. Well, she ended up finding it, and of course it's got flames and all this stuff, and she was, she basically said, "This is demonic," and just tossed it out.
Yeah.
He's like, I went hungry all those
Happened
months
to a lot of
nothing.
people's albums.
What? Okay, let's do one more question. We got just a few minutes. If you could pick one, we know what Jake's is going to be because he already said TD. But if you could pick one, and gosh, this is so hard. If you could pick one person you have to listen to for the rest of your life, you couldn't listen to any more groups, bands, musicians. Who would it be?
You go first.
I'll go first.
Yeah, I know.
And y'all going to be crazy.
I already know mine.
Oh, do you?
Yep.
My first, and it's easy for. There's not even a hands down. There's not a second.
Same with me.
Same with me.
Or Ray Charles.
Okay. Good pick.
I love Ray Charles.
I do too, man.
Did you guys know that Ray was born blind, but he could ride a motorcycle by himself?
He could also drive a car.
No, he's absolutely blind. Here's how he did it. He had a handler with him at all times. The handler would ride the exact same motorcycle as he was riding in front of him at a very specific angle. And Ray would listen to that motorcycle for when to shift gears. His hearing was so good he could hear it when it leaned.
Yeah, he never used a cane. Like blind people will use a cane. He didn't use one his entire life. He he got around, and he was not like Stevie Wonder fake blind. Stevie Wonder fake blind. Ray was legit, like fully could not see at all. There's a video of this man doing a sound check. Check it out, Steve. Like when you got some time, just look up Ray Charles sound check. It should pop up. But he's just checking sound, running through some things with a full orchestra behind him, and like somebody in the orchestra was hitting a wrong like note or run, and he just stopped everything and he pointed the person out because he could hear the instrument. He's like, "You're playing it wrong. Play it.
Yeah.
Let's try it again." Like, you know, like I'm just like, gosh, his hearing like was so good.
Amazing. They
Yeah.
called him One Take Ray. He would come in, if you hired him to collab, he would come in, do one take, and be done. How do you want it?
Superhuman.
Tell me what you want. Let's do it. Let's get done.
The
Jerry.
genius.
Chris Stapleton.
Really?
Oh,
Not even close.
Ooh.
yeah.
Not even close.
I do. So
Butter smooth voice, just like
Very
you,
good
And
voice.
he can sing anything.
Yeah, he's so the national anthem.
Hey, several people said are putting him up there
Oh.
with what he used to. I thought he blew away
Right.
every
Best national
thing
anthem I've ever heard.
Ever.
Ever.
He's really
Yeah.
good,
And
man.
that's probably the hardest song in the world to sing.
One of
Yeah.
the hardest. I love
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
That's a good
Brett.
pick. He's got me second guessing mine.
Oh.
I don't. I guess it's going to depend on what.
No. You get one to
I
listen
know.
to
I'm
the
just
rest
saying.
of your
It's going to
life.
depend on. Like sometimes I listen.
No,
to certain-
you get one artist to listen to the rest of your life. What is it?
Chris Stapleton picks a good one. I'm probably gonna. The first one that came to my head was AC/DC. That's
Okay.
like the
Oh,
first band that came to my head.
goodness.
That'd be my
Not
top
terrible.
five.
Not terrible. They're pretty. The problem with me and AC/DC is most of their hit music sounds the same.
Yeah.
It has the same. I don't know what that's called. What's that called, Jake? The
Chord
beat, the
structure. Well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you what it is, and Angus Young said it. He was like, my favorite chord progressions to use in my songs are AC and DC.
name?
For
There
real.
you go.
And it makes sense. Like, I
All
don't
right.
know, man.
Jake, if you had one person to listen to the rest of your life, who is it?
The Allman Brothers.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. Honest
figured
admission, I
like
don't.
them.
I don't know that I could name the first song by the Allman Brothers.
I've never heard of it.
Midnight Rider.
Never.
That's-
Okay, Midnight
that-
Rider, I've heard that.
Yeah, that's the Allman Brothers. But, like, they got a lot of music, and they're a band I could listen to all day.
Cool. Well, Jake, one more time. Where are you going to be on December 28th?
Tommy's Place in Westchester, Ohio. And before we go, I'm just going to check this. I want to make sure that date's right. Give me just
Sure,
one
absolutely.
second.
What a great conversation. But we're not done yet. Stick around through these very important ads for an awesome bonus story. JT's Way is a Christ-centered, nonprofit organization with a call to help hurting families during the loss of a child. At JT's Way, they assist families grieving from the loss of a child through assistance with things like funeral expenses, emotional support, guidance through the grief process, and help in their healing journey. While paying for funeral expenses, they help navigate picking a funeral home, burial plot, or cremation services, and provide families with grief counseling resources. JT was 17 years old when he died unexpectedly in an automobile accident. He was a senior in high school and a student in the automotive class. JT loved cars and music, and he took his role of friend very seriously, and made sure to make friends wherever he went. Their mission at JT's Way is to minister to families by financially assisting and connecting them with their local resources. These resources will assist in the financial and emotional burden of burying a child. Their aim is to aid in the healing process for parents and families, and these resources include grief counseling and parent-sibling groups. The outside world doesn't stop, but we can tell you from experience that a parent's world certainly does. In a time of desperate hopelessness, JT's Way provides hope. If you want to help support JT's Way in their mission, please reach out to them at www.jtsway.com. JT would often say, "Let me challenge you to make a friend, be a friend, and most importantly, bring a friend to the loving arms of Jesus Christ."
Hi, this is Ed Locke with USA Mortgage. Buying your first home can be overwhelming, but here are 5 tips to make the process go smoother. Number 1, find a lender, me, Ed Locke, that can answer any questions you might have and help you get pre-approved. There are multiple options available based on your situation. Number 2, work with a real estate agent you can trust. Number 3, don't rush the process. Take your time and know that the process could take some time. Number 4, consider all the costs. Number 5, get a home inspection and review it with your realtor. Keep these tips in mind, budget for yourself, and you'll be that much closer to making your dream of homeownership a reality. So reach out to me at 502-680-0953. NMLS ID 448908, DAS Acquisition Company, LLC, doing business as USA Mortgage, NMLS ID 227262. This is not a commitment to lend. Additional terms and conditions apply. USA Mortgage is an equal housing opportunity.
If you would like to share suggestions for future episodes, or simply tell us how much you love or hate us, reach out to us via email at newsworthywithsteveandjerry@gmail.com or text us at area code 540-709-1318. And now, back to the story.
Brett, whatever you do, do not rub that lamp.
I won't.
Tonight's cryptid that we're going to cover is the jinn, also pronounced jinn and westernized as genie. The spirit was either good or evil and appeared in pre-Islamic Arabian culture, beliefs, and religious systems. The jinn were mentioned numerous times in the Quran, making them formally a part of Islamic theology. Much like the angels of the Bible, the jinn were thought to possess magical powers, and while they were not considered gods and were not to be worshipped as such, jinns would sometimes perform feats of magic to earn the favor of humans. While jinns could take any form they chose, be it animal or human, it was believed that their natural form was a sort of thin, wispy, ghost-like smoke or faint, flickering fire. Jinns were believed to have the power of sorcerers, but gods and higher deities could punish them. Many jinns sought to help people and act as guardians of the innocent. Other jinns, however, were much more mischievous and would trick humans into doing their bidding by promising them great treasures and the granting of 3 wishes. The original word jinn translates from Arabic to English as to hide or to adapt. Jinns were often believed to be shapeshifters who could often change their forms into anything that best suited them.
Aladdin had it right.
And Jerry, if you can't see the light,
Be the light.